This episode is sponsored by Cocatel Collective, a strategic sales and marketing agency representing a highly curated portfolio of emerging beverage brands, from premium all-natural sodas, wine spritzes, and spirits all around the world.
Welcome to the In Process podcast, where we share stories of resilience and passion. We're excited that you found our YouTube channel, and we'd love to hear from you. So be sure to comment below and hit that like button. If you're enjoying these stories, be sure to subscribe and share. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome to this episode of In Process. I'm Thomas.
I'm Andy.
First off, huge shout out to Atmosphere and the Rhyme Series crew for sharing their music with us.
Today's guest is a Chicago legend, one of the most beloved chefs in all of the land. He is the owner and executive chef.
The whole land?
The whole land.
God,
Owner and executive chef of Che Steakhouse and Bar. Please help us welcome to the show, John Manion.
Welcome to the show, Chef.
The whole land.
The whole land from sea to shining sea.
Sea to shining sea.
Wow. I did not know that. That's crazy. It's good to know.
Well,
there you go.
You heard it first here. How has your day been so far? It's a frigid, for those listening. I was telling the team, it's like the first real cold day I feel like of Chicago. But
For sure.
It's real cold.
Yeah.
My dog wanted a short walk. My daughter wanted a show at 4 a.m. I spilled coffee on myself. Like it's been a Monday, you know.
It has, and it looks like it dumped on you guys hard on the out west because
It did, yeah. It snowed.
I saw some
for
snow
real.
on your car.
Oh yeah. It didn't happen down here.
It
like
never
this.
it never accumulated. You know, it's like maybe on like a planter or something like that. But
No, it was for real snow out in Berwyn.
wow, and that's how long is the drive into the city from there?
About 20 minutes.
Awesome.
Very simple, very easy.
So I got to kind of like note this, that this isn't our first time having a conversation with John. I just want to throw this out there that we had a show previously, and unfortunately that there's a lot of that. And if you listen to our first episode, you have a good understanding of why, unfortunately, that show never aired. But we are so excited to have you back on this show.
Is that going to be like a bootleg, the lost tapes, the lost years?
Yeah, we're gonna
Special
one
edition.
day.
We'll bring it out.
One day we'll
in 20
release
years.
it secretly under a different name or something like that. I wanted to give anyone listening a little quick light on Che first and foremost, so they know who you are and what this place is about. How would you kind of summarize what Che is for someone that's never been there before?
Okay, the short elevator pitch is it's a steakhouse, kind of. It is when I was a kid, I lived in South America. It is a Argentine-influenced Midwestern restaurant.
I love
How's that?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Because I'm not from there. I'll never be from there. I love it down there. I'm like hugely, my mind was blown by the techniques and the methods that I witnessed and participated in Argentina. But, it's part of my story, but it's not my story.
Right.
I'm a Midwestern kid.
When were you in Argentina?
So I was just there. I never
Yeah,
lived
know
there.
you were
I was
recently.
about
I
to
was just
ask
there.
about that. Yeah. You just went there to Mendoza, right?
Yeah, I was in Mendoza and Buenos Aires. Going backwards, when I was a kid, I lived in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
We'll touch on that a little bit later with a new thing. And I was just like this normal, picky 8-year-old kid who very, very simple. Moved to Brazil and we arrived in Sao Paulo and my mind was blown. Like all the things I found comfort in, they
Right.
were not there.
Right.
So I had to learn very quickly to enjoy other foods lest I starve. And, it became very central to our family, being expats, being kind of on an island down there, and then traveling quite a bit in South America. Like my mind was blown and opened up to all these new things. So it had a huge, I don't think I'd be doing this today if I didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
And then when I became a cook, I really wanted to explore those flavors. And this is the pre-internet kind of era where, there was like a book about Brazilian cooking,
Yeah.
but you had to go find things and you had to experiment with things. And I did that in a restaurant called Mas in like the late 90s, early 2000s, which was on Division Street where Bangers and Lace is now.
Right.
And that was like the Wild West years of Wicker Park. And during that time, I started going to Argentina. Really, there was a woman involved, but it was also about wine and just like an opportunity to get down there, and absolutely fell in love with the country, but like the method of cooking.
Yeah.
Which is something that I'd seen before. And certainly Brazil has its own tradition, but like it's just next level there.
Yeah.
So my thing was, when I do my own thing, I want it to be a Midwestern version of like a classic Buenos Aires parrillada.
I love that.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's that's how that happened.
When I was out in SF with Isaac, we had a friend of ours from Argentina, like a group of them were from Argentina, and we used to have so they used to call it Macho Night. So they would just invite a bunch of bros over, but there's like 3 or 4 of them who were actually the main guy, Javi. He was talented enough that he was going to pursue professional football or soccer.
Yeah.
So he had a very serious injury that kind of ended his career, and then but he was always in love with cooking. So then he would bring this style of cooking to our like just random get-togethers, and he would set up these like crucifixes.
Yeah,
and,
elaborate, like
it was insane. It was
I feel like it's in Argentina. It's the only thing I can compare it to is barbecue, like in Texas or the Carolinas, where everyone kind of does it. It's a Sunday thing. Everyone's got their own method.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but it's like it is a pastime.
Yeah.
Like you start the embers, and I did an asado this last time I was there in Mendoza with this. The premise was I was going to cook all the food, but there was the chef that was already there, Gonzalo, who I like helped me out the night before. He's a caterer in Mendoza, like really talented guy. And I showed up, and he had already kind of like set up the coals and done everything. And we were talking. He's like, "Yo, yeah, I do this. Like, this is what I do every Sunday for my family. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And kind of like showing me how he does it. And in my head, I was like, I do that a little bit different. Like, I would do that a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But I was also like, there's no fucking way I'm going to tell this guy, like, this is just like, this guy from like Chicago, like, oh, by the way, bro, could you step aside? Let me show you how to do your thing that you've been doing forever.
Right. And passed down from generation
Yeah,
to
yeah,
generation.
yeah. Like this proud tradition, like, oh, check this out.
Yeah. I want to jump back a little bit on your story, because for anyone that doesn't know you, I think that it's a shame. Like your story is incredible, and I feel like more people need to know this. I feel like one day, hopefully, you'll write a memoir or something like this, because it's a fucking awesome story. I loved hearing about it, and it's such an interesting, insightful perspective, and unique. And just wanted to jump into that because we were talking about it just a second ago about you living down there. So your family kind of uprooted for work, correct?
Yeah, my dad worked for Ford, and they opened up a plant in outside of Sao Paulo in the late 70s. And, the way I remember it, it was like we were at our dinner table in like suburban Detroit, and my parents were like, hey, what do you kids think about moving to Brazil? And like, I don't know. We were so much less sophisticated. Maybe we looked at a map, and I was like, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And then they put all my toys in a box, and the next thing you know, we're there.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what the fuck? What the fuck happens here? Because like Sao Paulo, if you've never been there, is big. I don't know. It's like, it's insane. The infrastructure is not the same, and it's like everybody in the world's there, and it's just like a huge. I've never been to Tokyo, but like, it's
Right.
big.
It's such a crazy melting pot, and I something that I think what most people don't understand about that city specifically, and maybe the country, but so you were exposed to so many different
Specifically
new
that
things.
city where it's the financial center of South America, and there's more Japanese people living in Sao Paulo than anywhere outside of Tokyo.
That's nuts.
When we moved back to the Detroit area after being in Brazil, I thought that Lebanese food was Brazilian food because that's what you ate. You know what I mean? There's so many Lebanese people there that it's just like kibbeh and falafel, like all that stuff is just that's just food you eat there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a big part of the culture. Like the best Italian food outside of Italy that I've ever had.
Right. I thought that was really interesting.
What else? I mean, the first time we had sushi was there, and that was a long time ago. Yeah. So it's a huge, huge melting pot.
Jeez. And so maybe just like how did you go from living there and trying food to getting this like obsession with cooking? Like, how did that?
So, moved back to the States when I was in 8th grade, I think, and we while we waited for to find a house, we lived in the Holidome.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a Holiday Inn that has a dome with a pool across from like McDonald's and fucking Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And like that's what we ate every day. And it was like, wow, in suburban Detroit,
right.
like strip mall central. And it was like, wow, this sucks.
Damn.
I was always interested, so dining became central to our family's existence, right? Like I've said this before, but at dinner we talked about lunch. At lunch we talked about dinner.
Right.
Breakfast is for amateurs, but it became our obsession. Wherever we traveled, it was like, which restaurant are we going to go to? What are we going to eat? Wow. At the same time, my grandfather was the photo editor for the Buffalo Evening News. And at that time, in Brazil, my sister and I read the encyclopedia. We were so fucking bored because TV was in Portuguese and there just wasn't all this access. So he would send books down for me to read as a young kid. And it was like, he sent like Studs Terkel working to a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
But I got really into, Hemingway and like all these adventure.
Yeah.
And Hemingway eating was so central to like his narrative.
Yeah.
That became an obsession as well, like writing, reading, and how food intersected with that. When I moved back to the States, I always worked in restaurants,
Yeah.
busboy, dishwasher, that kind of thing, because it was like everybody had a job. And it was fun work for me. I liked being around food, and I liked being in kitchens. But I had this teacher freshman year in high school who was like, hey, if you're into this, check out Jim Harrison, who was a Michigan writer. And at the time, he was the food editor for Esquire magazine.
That's right.
As a freshman in high school, I had very little interest in men's fashion, but I got a subscription, and my mind was like, it was just kind of off to the races.
I love that.
With like the intersection of literature and food. I mean, when I was in college studying English literature and political science, I thought that I wanted to be in academia.
Yeah.
And then I told my advisor that, and when he stopped laughing, he was like, maybe figure something else out, guy.
Love that.
But yeah, it's a big part of how I came to it was literature as well.
Yeah. That's such an interesting, I guess, way to get into the kitchen.
Yeah,
but
you start with Hemingway.
right.
And everything's downhill from there. Yeah. Although, it's not all wine and roses with Ernest.
Right. I mean, and it makes a lot of sense because you're just exposed to so many different, variations of like techniques and food and flavors, ingredients. It's no surprise that it just like starts to open one's mind up, especially at a young age about.
Absolutely.
Right?
I was very fortunate as well. My father had this huge wanderlust where he'd like, wherever we were, we could be on a train in Germany. He'd be like, okay, we got 20 minutes. Let's go find something, let's get a sausage and a beer. Cool. Like, so it was just really curious mind.
Yeah.
And that helped me. My mom was a great cook.
Right.
And it's just kind of, it's central to who we are.
Yeah. I want to touch on the kind of the beginning of El Che, and there's this story you shared that I really, really admired, and I want to touch on that, but we definitely want to get to the new project here. There was something you mentioned on a podcast about how El Che started and how there were maybe a little too many cooks in the kitchen in the beginning of that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to avoid now.
Right.
Opening up a second place.
And but the part I really loved about that story was about after COVID, there was like a big kind of reformatting of the restaurant and what it is today. And for those people that haven't been to El Che yet, I mean, it's opened in 2016, correct?
Yeah.
It's in one of the most coolest spaces in Chicago.
Yeah, it's a great building.
Which your friend kind of acquired for you guys. It's the Checker Taxi building, which has this beautiful seafoam green facade to it. And the first time I went there, I remember just seeing how Checker, it's like you see CHE lit up still. It's like, it's just so much character. And
that used to be our only sign. Turns out that was a little too subtle for people.
We're still telling our business partner about that too here.
Yeah.
We haven't had a
It's
sign
important.
in
You got to
4
have a
years.
sign for your restaurant. But what was that kind of like journey through El Che like? I mean, I know we're kind of skipping through La Serena. right?
Yeah, for sure. We had La Serena and we opened up Che, and it was like I had this very concrete idea about what I wanted it to be. And I think that the lesson there was like it became a very democratic process. A lot of different ideas, and we respected all of those. And we ended up, when we opened, I didn't love what we were doing. It wasn't what I set out to do. It wasn't even close. The interior it didn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
And what we were doing food-wise didn't feel right to me. But I'd kind of like decided I was going to take this role overseeing both Serena and Che, and kind of lost control of both of them. So we made some changes, and we were headed in that direction with Che. Serena, the lease was up in 2019, and that was like that always had a shelf life. We knew that going into it. With Che, we were headed in that direction, and then when we closed down for the pandemic, it was just me and our GM, Alex Cooper, and we had this kind of opportunity where it was like, if we could do this all over again, what would we do?
I love that.
Yeah, and then we did that. So I always wanted this all South American wine list, which we opened in 2016. It didn't seem possible. There just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And when we started tasting coming back, it was apparent that we could do this kind of insane revolutionary list.
Yeah.
Which opened up a lot of doors for us. Because once you tell people like, listen, if you have something cool, we'll consider it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden things start showing up that you didn't know existed.
Right.
So that wine list to me is like a huge source of pride.
I love that.
And to my knowledge, there's really no one else in the United States who's doing what we're doing, and definitely not at the scope that we're doing it.
Right.
Secondly, the food just it was what I wanted when we first opened. I have like a handwritten menu that I kind of worked off, where it was just like, okay, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And I don't know,
What were some of those changes?
grilled seafood, almost approaching it. We changed the grill, like the setup, so that one side was all the meat and the other side was seafood, but specifically shellfish.
Shellfish, right?
Grilled, kind of the approach being almost izakaya, where it's like, this is 3 flavors, that's all it is. It can just be these things, and they've got to be cooked perfectly. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
I love that.
More emphasis on vegetables. Just kind of like very clean, almost a la carte. Not reliant on the traditions of a parrilla, like a Argentine steakhouse or an American steakhouse, but somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just a very clean, approachable menu.
Yeah, I want to kind of paint a picture for people that haven't been to this place, because one, you know, anyone that's out there that's listening and hasn't joined you over at El Che, like, please go. It's this beautiful space that has so much character, and when you walk in, there's like this lively energy about the restaurant. And I feel like, you know, I've worked in a wood fire grill concept before, and I feel like that energy kind of gets emitted into the dining space, and you see this big, beautiful, what is the grill called? There's a name for it?
Yeah, it's a parrilla.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to repeat that and destroy that, but it's really something so special and unique to dining. I know Andy and I are both obsessed over live fire cooking, and it's like there's just an intimate, personal requirement for cooks working in El Che, and like there's just something so much more intimate and delicious about food, let's just say seafood, vegetables, meats being cooked over. It's getting heat, but it's also imparting flavor, and the cook can't just like throw it in this gas broiler and just kind of set it and forget it and pull it out. And it's like there's so much attention required.
It's really the hardest way. Like, I look at it sometimes. I don't cook back there anymore. And I watch these guys. I'm like, I don't know why they do this. Like, it's just the degree of difficulty is so high,
right,
that if you cook at Che, you can like literally cook anywhere.
I love that.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And there's also a warmth to it, just in general.
Yeah.
no pun intended, but like it is intimate. You know, like you can't fake it.
Yeah.
There's no way to just kind of like let it ride.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, every time I've been there, at least even with Tom, like I sit there and stare at the fire, you know, like there's something, it's mesmerizing.
It
Yeah,
really is.
It is.
Yeah, I just, and then, yeah, like you said, it's the warmth of it. I think there's like this, I don't know, romantic kind of, I don't know, beautiful, very human,
Absolutely.
you know, I don't know, aspect of it. And just the fact that you have to maintain it. It's not, you know, it's not a,
No, it'll go out.
yeah, exactly. And so it's like, it's not just, a tool to cook food, but you have to constantly be on top of it. You have to maintain the temperature. You have to maintain what part stays hot. And
Absolutely.
right. So it's
The other
it's
thing
a
is, you know,
very
even now when I
complicated-
walk in there after I don't know how many years, it is so apparently like the heart of that restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, especially on a day like today where you walk in and it's just like, it's so fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
it really is
Perfect for these
Yeah.
Chicago winters,
It
by
really
the
is.
way.
So jealous.
and you have this beautiful communal table that I was listening to you talk about.
Yeah.
You guys like salvaged this piece of wood.
Well, it's not. It's actually the floorboards from where the hearth sits. So the engineering, we could have put steel underneath this big hearth that we built, this 12-foot hearth. But what we decided to do was build a structure down to the slab in the basement, with bricks basically,
Yeah.
and cut out the floor, and then reassembled the floor, and that's what's sitting right in front of where it used to be.
Yeah.
So it's pretty it's very subtle, but if you know that it's unmistakable and pretty cool.
I love that. Yeah, it's cool. And it's just such a great experience to go and eat there and sit at that table. You're right near the kitchen. You get to see all of the action there. And, you know, just kudos to your team. Like, I feel like, you know, and it all starts from the top, but you have such an amazing team of really, really passionate people, you know, that really care about hospitality, and whether they're taking care of guests through cooking or through service or through the bar. You know, everyone on your team over there is amazing, and we love taking care of them when they come here to this restaurant. And
Well, that was another thing coming
hats off to
back
those
is
guys.
like our culture wasn't bad to begin with, but it was really an emphasis on like culture.
yeah,
And for me now, oftentimes at Che, I look around and it has nothing to do with me during service. It's just like I'm super proud and grateful of the people who work there,
yeah,
who have bought into this vision and made it their own in so many ways.
yeah,
You know, it's like I'm eternally grateful for the people who work there, and they're running it now.
Yeah.
You know, it's as much theirs as it is mine.
yeah. I love that. And I feel like, you know, we've definitely picked your brain about that transition, even for us, kind of like letting go a little bit of.
It's hard, man.
Yeah, it's very hard.
But you got a very talented chef team over there. So
Extremely talented.
Yeah.
Very fortunate.
Yeah. Big
Yeah.
shout out to Adam and all of them, Alex, and I mean the whole crew.
I have a question. Like, yeah, every time I go there, everybody's so happy. Are there certain things that you've had to like let go of, like in the way that you lead?
Yeah,
that you have seen?
yes, absolutely. I realized coming back that like Alex Cooper, our GM, who is a superstar, you know, we all kind of figured it out as we were like reopening was let's figure this out as we go along. And I found like I could see myself from outside of myself micromanaging him. You know, like just standing over his shoulder and being like tapping him like, no, no, no. And the moment I could give that up is the moment that he really thrived. So now I keep my comments to myself. Like we'll talk about it later. During service, I'll only talk to certain people and not insert myself into situations. Because what I found is like, if I'm not driving the bus, which I'm not, like during service, I don't know what's going on. I might think I do,
Right.
and I might have a snapshot, but I could have no idea what is actually at work, and not trusting the people who are like running this business very, very well to make the right decisions and to interject myself in that situation does them a huge, huge disservice. So yeah, it has been a difficult habit to break, but I feel like I have weaned myself from micromanaging. Now you might get a really long email the next day, super long with many bullet points. But during the moment, yeah, I'm out on that. Yeah,
I love that. Time and place.
We're guilty of that shit here too.
Yeah.
it's hard not to, especially
my
when,
God.
and like now we're almost a generation removed from like me actually like doing all the work myself.
Right.
Which once you can give that up, it's like, oh, that shit sucked. I did that for 20 years. Like, I don't need to do that anymore. You know, like everyone's best served by me looking at the big picture.
Right.
But now, you know, Adam is moving on to help open Brasero.
Oh yeah.
So now we have 2 new young guys running the kitchen.
Awesome.
Oh shit.
So that's like, I have to do it all over again.
Yeah. Well, a perfect segue. Let's jump into this. So you've got Brasero on the way.
We do.
It is going to be located in West Town,
1709 West Chicago.
West Chicago. So for people that aren't familiar with the geography of Chicago and listening in, it is just on the west side. We'll call it northwest-ish of downtown area, slightly
Yeah, the near west
Damon?
side.
near west side. Yeah.
Ashland.
Yeah.
Ashland?
Why there first and foremost?
I believe in that neighborhood. I lived in that neighborhood for a long, long time. I think that neighborhood was up and coming before the pandemic and really took it on the chin. I think that Chicago Avenue has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I like the proximity to downtown. You know, at Che, we're like downtown.
Yeah.
The West Loop is like the new downtown. It's like just another extension.
Right.
That's a tweener, I think. Proximity to the United Center, the new casino, and I feel like all this development is just kind of spreading that way.
Yeah.
So I think it can be a cool little neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
But I do, you know, it also, for me, Brasero feels full circle because I lived in that neighborhood and my first real chef job was at Moss
Right.
on Division Street, just a mile away.
Right.
It feels like a return and kind of a re-examination of what I was doing 25 years ago.
I love that. Oh yeah.
So it's not, that is intentional.
Yeah.
There is a part of it that definitely fuels me.
I like it, and it sounds like a great move.
Let's hope so.
What is the name? What's behind the name there?
Brasero is the iron basket that you would throw wood in to make coals. Plus, it sounds cool.
What? It does sound cool, but what do you mean iron basket?
Okay, so
Can you
like
paint
if you look at Che, it's essentially a brazier.
okay,
So if you look at Che, there's an iron. It's made out of rebar basket where we throw logs. They burn and fall down and make coals.
oh,
So that basket is called a brasero.
Gotcha.
So this is also wood burning. Did I mention it sounds cool?
It sounds very cool.
What could we expect as far as the live fire? What differences from? Is it a bigger?
No, it is more. It's more contained. The line there is actually, while it's a bigger restaurant, the line's a little bit smaller and set into 2 different areas. We've had a custom hearth that sits. It's not stationary. It's on legs. That is a big kind of central smoker, oven, grill in the middle, and then 2 grills on the side.
Okay.
So this is kind of this was definitely a back of the napkin design.
I love that.
So we'll see if this shit works.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
And the concept is primarily
So if Che is an exploration, a Midwestern kind of exploration of Argentina, this is going to be bigger flavors from my childhood in Brazil, and that's not exclusive. Like if I'm not Argentine, I'm definitely not Brazilian.
yeah.
But we're going to reach into some of those bigger, bolder flavors. And,
love that.
you know, I'll say this. My elevator pitch is not there yet
Okay.
because we have not been able to cook yet.
Oh.
But we're going to draw from a lot of different things while still kind of being focused on that's the playpen. You know, it's Midwestern sensibility with flavors from South America.
I love that.
But it's not all over the place. You know, at Moss, it was very like, and also this, and arepas, and there's a taco. None of that.
Yeah.
It's going to be
A little bit more focused.
Well, Midwestern food. You know how like Giant's a restaurant
yeah.
and they make delicious food,
Yeah.
and the influences are, I mean, he's got pasta, so
Yeah.
there's that. I'd like to be able to fall into that where it's like it's a Midwestern restaurant first, and it draws from these different things.
Right. Right.
But it's at its inception, it's like let's talk about delicious first,
Yeah.
and then go backwards from there.
I love that. I think most people don't understand the challenges of live fire outside of just what we already touched on about how much attention is required, but also at a business level, there's a lot of cost with this. Like you're firing that hearth up like what, half an hour almost before you're getting going. I mean,
We have a big torch now.
okay, right. I mean, just the shit is burning.
Shit is burning, and I'll say this:
know?
like Che, like the fires at Brasero will be a little bit more. I've learned a lot in these past few years. The fire at Che is gratuitous. There's certain things there that we could do. You know what I mean? Like it's a line item, and we account for it. But
Yeah.
it is gratuitous.
Yeah.
Brasero will be a little bit more contained.
Okay. Smart.
I'm trying to do smart. I figure if I could do more smart things than dumb things along the way, we're
You're
gonna be
all
okay.
right.
Yeah.
I remember our guys like hauling fucking bags of mesquite charcoal up these, Chicago 2 second-story stairs. It was like, just brutal. Like 50 bags show up in the back alley.
Yeah.
And like, it's like you had to get everybody that wasn't wearing a fucking suit, in the restaurant to just like go and haul these bags up. And it's once a week, So,
We get wood every day.
oh my God.
Every day.
How much you guys bringing in?
Depends. It depends on the day.
Yeah. Like even the type of wood is imparting a different flavor, right? And
Yeah,
like,
it's all oak. It's all kiln. It's all from Wisconsin. It's very like if we get with what we're doing at Che, if we get wood that's cut too big, that's not kilned enough, like it can really drag service.
right. Yeah, I remember the days when it would be a really wet harvest, and like the sparks that were coming off of
It's
these
so
things
fun.
would be like, it would dance like 20 feet into the
You talk
dining
about
room.
mesquite?
Yeah,
Oh, that shit
mesquite.
blows up. Yeah, it's crazy.
It just that's like a firework. It just like shoots out 10 feet and then pops and then goes another.
yeah.
It was insane.
And you're telling people like, don't worry about that. And meanwhile, you're like, oh, you should definitely worry about that.
Like I think we'll pass on the chef's table today.
Yeah.
Just like, when is that set to open, Brasero?
Mid-January.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's
Holy shit, that's
we got
very
a lot of work to
close.
do. We got a lot of work to do.
Well, that's exciting.
How far are you with menu development?
Okay, well,
If you haven't cooked yet.
okay, so there's a menu.
Yeah. You guys are R&Ding over there at El Che right now?
No, not at all. We have.
Yeah.
So there's a menu and it's out there, right?
Yeah.
All I got to do is go out and get it.
Okay.
Oh, man, it's out there.
I can't wait.
It's out there in the universe.
I love that.
That's beautiful. That's
So there's a menu written, right? And I have this insanely talented group of cooks who are going to start cooking probably tomorrow morning. And we've talked about it, you know, and we've cooked some things. And I would wager that half the things that are on the menu right now will not be on the menu when we open. But they're like, that's the beautiful thing. Like there are these ideas and there are things I know we're going to do, but it's being in the space. This is why I'm not cooking in Che. Oh, then it's like also very busy and we'll just be in the way.
Yeah. And hot.
Well, it's going to be hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's,
It's front of house talking over here.
It's too hot. I would say I'm a front of house guy. I would stay away from that fucking grill
yeah,
for sure.
It's pretty hot.
Yeah.
There is this process of being in that space and understanding it and seeing it all come together that's going to inform the food. It's going to inform what we're doing there. It's got to be this symbiotic relationship with the development at the front of the house, I think, and it's got to be this natural progression of like, here's an idea to here's the dish. So yeah, like the timeline freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah.
By a little bit, I mean a lot,
It always is.
but we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
I'm getting nervous for you. Just
Andy's in the same. Andy's in the same boat right now. You
we're
know,
like
working on
we're
a-
like 5 months out, and I'm like, what the fuck are we?
Well, menus due soon, so we'll see.
But it's always going to change.
Yeah.
And I've learned that I don't want to waste time like going through the performative act of like, let's cook this and put it on this plate that I got from Steel Light. We need to be in there.
Yeah.
And it's got to be organic and it's got to just happen. And also like once with what we're doing, I need everything to be in its place. I need everything to be where it is so I know how to pick things up, to know what we can do. You know, we're going to do these little chickens. Like, I think I know how to do it. I know how to do it, but I don't know how to do 50 of them.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. There's a best way. But while we're developing the flavors and whatever marinade or rub we're going to do and how we're going to hold it and how we're going to cook it, it would be really useful to know how we're going to do that during service instead of coming up with this finished product and then reverse engineering like what can work and what won't work. Because like anybody can make food, right? Like we could make the whole menu right now.
Yeah.
But it's the magic trick of doing it for a lot of people in rapid succession, and that and figuring out how to So we got to be in there.
I love that. Yeah,
I don't.
I like just like listening to you and I'm just kind of reeling this back to El Che too. It's like you love birds, right? Like you love
birds,
you know, and that's what when I think about El Che and like tell people about it, I'm not like go there and get. It's not like go and get steak at El Che. It's like you guys do so many other things incredible off that grill, and that live fire really lets you explore flavors in in how you're cooking.
Yeah,
and such a different experience. So I'm so excited for the addition of Brasero here, another incredible addition to the dining scene here in Chicago, and so I cannot wait to see what you guys are going to come up with.
Like it's going to be exciting. I want the food to be like, we just have to get there because I don't want it to fall into just, this is an exploration of blah. You know, like it needs to be, I know how it's going to feel. And that feeling, we just need to get there in the food, like how it's plated, how you're going to eat, how it's presented. It's got to be it's got to be a thought, Yeah.
Very cool. How much of your team besides Adam is heading over there? Is Alex helping with the wine list?
So Alex is taking a role where he's going to do the beverage programs at both places.
Cool.
Wine is so like central to our mission.
Yeah.
That like we really need him doing that in both. I mean, yeah. Liz is going to be the GM over at Brasero.
Cool.
And I got a couple cooks going over from Che. But we've already kind of like, we have a lot of people working at Che right now. There's a few people kind of just like waiting in the wings. Yeah. And there's a few people like Francis and Adam are just kind of like cleaning stuff at Brasero. Every now and again they'll cook a chicken. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah.
That was good. But I mean, this week is really like, we need to get there.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, Thanksgiving's rough, right? Nothing happened last week.
Right. Quiet.
Very quiet.
We were, I'm just jumping in here, but we were going to talk some shop about pizza with you today, but
Oh God.
we've done this before, but what I want to jump into is some questions that I think we have from. Actually, before we do that, I do want to ask about Wanda Wega.
Yeah.
And maybe for anyone that doesn't know what that is, can you shed a little light on what Camp Wanda Wega is?
So Camp Wanda Wega is it's not glamping. It's an old camp in Wisconsin, close to Lake Geneva. David and Teresa bought it, I want to say 20 years ago. They've rehabbed it painstakingly little by little. So it's this kind of magical little enclave where everything seems like a movie. And it's definitely a kind of I don't know. It's unlike any place I've ever been.
Oh,
but
wow.
it feels like adult kid camp
I love that.
in the best way possible.
And so every year you guys.
Well, so no, it's Stock Manufacturing every year does this campfire jamboree
Okay.
to, and it's evolving, but it was really to kind of thank their best customers.
Oh, okay.
And I have been the culinary director we've done it 3 times now.
yeah.
So I think that will continue.
And you guys are just bringing guest chefs up there. Did you guys just cook it out? And
Let's cook it out.
that's awesome.
Just like you can't go inside, you got to cook outside.
Oh.
And it's been an embarrassment of riches.
I love that. Jumping into some questions from the guests or listeners
boy.
here.
I saw that on the internet and I was like, Jesus Christ, man.
I want to throw. Maybe we can start with. We have one from one of our teammates here, actually.
For me. It's a cooking question.
Okay, go.
Perfect steak. Like, if I'm at home, what are some things that I like? It's like foolproof. Like, you do this and it's going to turn out great.
All right, how are you going to cook this steak?
I don't know.
Do you have a grill? Do you have a cast iron pan?
I have a cast iron.
Okay,
but
cast iron.
Yes.
What steak?
Ribeye.
How big? Thick, thin?
Thick.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah.
All right. Okay, so here is what you're going to do. You're going to set your oven at home, indoors.
Yes.
This is the steak. Set your oven at 200 degrees. The night before, take your ribeye, season it. Salt. I don't use pepper. You can. I don't. I just want beef to taste like beef. If you can get your hands on some suet, some tallow, some rendered beef fat, go ahead and do that. I can hook you up. I can hook it up if you need it. We're right over there. So the night before,
Wait, you
you're gonna
smear the tallow all over the.
not yet, not inside.
Oh, okay.
Grilling, yes, but like we're gonna do it a little bit differently.
Okay.
So season your steak the night before. You want to draw some of the liquid out and make the outside, nice and kind of almost cured. Okay.
Yes.
The next day, 3-4 hours before you cook this steak, take it out of the fridge. Just let it sit, rest. You're going to set at this point, you will set your oven for 200 degrees because we're going to reverse sear it. And this is like controversial. There's a lot of people who don't believe in this, but I'm telling you it works.
I think it's a pride thing, I think.
Could be, but like
I don't believe in it.
But no, I believe in science. We're just talking about
Right.
facts here. This
Right.
is not. Trust me, I had all kinds of people who walked up to the past and they're like, I do a little grilling, what are those guys using? Thermometers? Well, whatever. It's like, okay, guy.
I use my hand. I'm a pro.
Exactly. It's like this and this. It's like you please go away. So yeah, we're gonna bring that steak to about 100 degrees, which will take maybe half hour, 40 minutes in your oven. Now, what we're doing there at 200 degrees is it's just drying it out and heating it up. We're not really rendering any fat, but we're just getting it to the perfect point to put it in a ripping hot cast iron. You're going to want your windows open. You're going to want your fan on because we're going to cook it real, real fast.
Fire alarm
Yeah,
off.
none of that
smoke
helps us
detector.
in Chicago, by
I've
the way.
been
I just
like,
want to let you know.
He's cooking it.
We've set that alarm off
Every time.
every time.
When I was in culinary school, I had
Without
this
fail.
studio apartment that the window faced, and I don't know what, I was just stupid, I guess. The window faced a wall, and I made steak au poivre and basically gassed myself. Just like choking, coughing, crying.
Just passed out.
So here's the thing. We're going to cook it in beef tallow if you can get some. You're going to get your pan ripping hot. You're just going to sear it. You're not going to touch it. You're not going to fuck with it. You're just going to let it warm a crust. You're going to flip it. It's not going to take very long. You're going to let the crust form. You're going to take it off and you're going to rest it for 7, 8, 9 minutes. Maybe dress it with a little bit more beef tallow. Let it rest, and it should be perfect.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much spot on like how I usually cook a steak. The only difference I feel like is, so I wonder this.
You can, and
Butter basting,
you can,
is that like...
I would use tallow. I would baste. But for me, and this comes from, I like that. and it's great, but it's not what I do. I want beef to taste like beef, and that's it. Now, like if I go to Boof House and that's how they do it, with like the garlic and the thyme,
Right.
I love it. It's fantastic. But for me, I just want it to be like I want, if we're buying great beef, it to taste like nothing but beef. So I think using tallow enhances it. Basting is great because you get a crust on it. I don't know how to explain that to you without showing you.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I like
saying
that.
lift up the thing and baste with a spoon.
Right.
But I think you can achieve what you want to without doing that.
Right. I love that. I don't do the herbs and I don't do the garlic. You know, I know like a lot of chefs I've seen like, you know, and I feel like a lot of restaurants do it that way, but yeah, I just straight just butter on there and that's it. And
I feel like Boof House does that, and that's the best example of the first time I sat down there and had a steak, the person I was eating with said, like, how did they do this? And I said, exactly this way, which is the right way. You know, it's not, if not at Che, that's where I would eat a steak.
Wow. And they're doing like, so the reverse, you know, I just feel like I don't do that. I don't do the,
What I like about that is it
oven.
loosens, especially in a ribeye.
yeah.
It loosens up or renders a little bit of that fat. What I wouldn't do that with anything but a ribeye.
Yeah.
Oh.
I feel like everybody, like just, if I were to just make up a common misconception, I feel like everybody undercooks ribeye a little bit. And it's like, can get too chewy because there's so much fat. And it's
We were talking about this the other night where, like, for me, a filet is rare. A New York is mid-rare. But I'll usually eat a ribeye medium.
right.
So a lot of that connective tissue is rendered, and I think it's just way more delicious.
You should see people's faces when I used to tell them that when we used to have like thicker cut ribeyes on these grills, and I would tell them, hey, bring it up a little bit further than you would like your normal steaks. I'm like, it's ribeye. It should be closer to medium. People would just look at me like I just said the most ridiculous shit in the
Blasphemy.
world.
Yeah. I mean, people feel really, especially in the Midwest, or maybe it's all over, but people feel really strongly about their beef. And
Yeah,
how,
they
like,
want bloody,
like America.
chewy. Yeah. Like, oh, my jaws are hurt, you know?
But I think it's also like this. I drink bourbon. I take my steak bloody.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
Like, it's just kind of.
I mean, that's the same with our short rib, too. Like, we like to make sure it's cooked a little bit further.
Right.
Just because the same
There's so
reasons.
much fat.
Yeah, we just changed our cut of the short rib at Che from. I was in Argentina and I was like, this is because we've been getting it Colby style. So like that's 3/4 of an inch is how we're getting it cut.
The lateral cut, like with the 3 bones.
With the 3 bones, yeah.
No shit. Okay.
But it just changed it to 1.5 inches. So it's like a steak,
Right.
but it almost has to be medium.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But it just, I don't know, something about the fibers and the way you like it just
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
you
much
gotta-
better that
you
way.
have to cook it a little
And you
bit
have
further.
to chew it. And like for that, people when they order, it's like, okay, so this is chewy and fatty.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a good thing. But for you, maybe not.
Right.
So
Yeah. Always a challenge educating some listener or some guests with these things.
Wait, I have a question about the reverse sear thing, though.
yeah, go.
So are you reverse searing as well when you do cook ribeyes?
If I'm doing it in a pan inside my home, yes. Okay. But I'll say this, if I had a huge ribeye, I would do the same kind of thing if I were doing it in a Weber grill where I'd put it to one side and kind of smoke it until it got to 100 degrees and then hammer it real fast. Yeah, so it's essentially the same thing.
Okay. So you're bringing it up slowly
Bring it up slowly
and then...
on an outdoor grill. This is not the restaurant. We just like everything. Well, actually, that's not true. We start the bigger cuts over charcoal, way higher, and then finish them
Kind of same idea.
on the grill. Yeah.
Oh.
It's just like it loosens everything up and renders it a little bit.
What did we cover this? What is your favorite cut of beef?
Man, it depends on the day. I'm around so much beef, you know what I mean?
Right.
That I will say over the last 3 days, I've eaten a filet. I've eaten a. When I was in Argentina, it's the short rib is the first thing I'm going to order.
How do they do that? By the way,
Low and slow, same thing.
Oh,
Hot to
okay.
medium, and then they finish it quickly over the grill.
and it's English cut or is it like lateral cut?
Lateral cut,
Oh, interesting.
But thicker.
But thick.
but thick, way thicker.
I got to see
Inch and a
this.
half.
And because they break the beef differently, you can get more ribs. Here it's always 3 because the way that cattle's cut.
Right.
I don't know. I love a ribeye.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's my if it was my
like
last steak on earth, it'd probably be a ribeye.
Has to be
I will normally, if I'm eating out, if I'm going to a steakhouse, I feel like a New York strip is a great tweener. It's got everything I want from a ribeye. Not everything, but like a little bit. Like I can carry on afterwards.
I see what you're saying.
Whereas if I'm taking a ribeye down, like it's game over.
Yeah, it's night.
It is, yeah, pretty much.
One thing that always drives me nuts is like, I should just know this better. But I'm obsessed with like whole animal butchery and I just like, where is the best part of the rib? Like, the ribeye, like the whole
Rack.
Yeah.
Right? I want that perfect balance of like, I don't like the eye. It's my least favorite part
Okay,
of
so
it.
do you know
like all the
when's the last time?
spinalis.
So we have like
Spoiled.
at Che now, we serve this 14-ounce ribeye. We're getting real in the weeds on steak, but we used to serve this 14-ounce ribeye, and and we grilled it quickly, and it was the most return steak because if it's not
what?
perfectly in the middle, because the spinalis will separate
Yeah.
and there's always that big chunk of fat.
Yeah.
So we started just taking the whole spinalis off
Oh no.
and serving the eye.
Yeah.
Oh no!
I'm like, what?
Tragedy.
I'll take it.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
So we take the whole spinalis off, right? We serve a 14-ounce eye, which is like having roast beef, basically,
Right.
like prime rib. And the spinalis, we grill whole. Oh. We call it the party steak.
Oh hell yeah.
And there's only a few, like we don't, it's
I'm on
limited.
board, yeah.
It's limited. And it's like, I think it's like almost, it's $200 for the whole thing.
Oh, that's not bad.
But it looks like a flank steak.
Oh man.
And it is like
What's the weight usually?
usually about 2.5, 3 pounds. So
Wow.
if you do that,
Yeah.
That's cheap.
That's cheap.
I know. But
Like, what's
but here's the thing, we've subsidized it.
Gonna be at LJ.
I'm going there tonight.
But there's only
going.
a couple.
Okay. I'm gonna like text
Text
Adam.
Adam right now.
Like, save me that 3-pound spinalis. I'm there. I feel like the Midwest it's one of those things. So like in Korean barbecue, they call it seusal, which literally translates to shrimp meat because of how it looks.
That's beautiful. I love
and
that.
it's like Koreans, it's like a coveted thing. Like you go out to LA and you go to New York, and you go to like the best Korean barbecue restaurants, people are paying top fucking dollar for that. And we made a big push here. Like I'm a firm believer that I love spinalis. I think it's the best part of the ribeye.
It's the best part of it. Like there's a few things on a cow, right? That rib meat, spinalis,
Yeah.
oxtails, shanks.
Yeah.
For me, like that's kind of where I want to live.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, we have it on our menu, and it's like I'm just like I think people are just slow on it here. But when we get somebody from LA or like from Korea, they see it, they're like, give us that ribeye cap.
Yeah, I'll take it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Spinalis doesn't really roll off the tongue.
No, it doesn't. That's why I think shrimp meat is great. We
Shrimp
just
meat.
need to change the
confusing,
literature.
though.
Yeah, we'd have a
Like,
hard
what the
time with
fuck is
that.
this?
People would be like, "What the fuck is this?" I can't have shrimp meat mid-rare. It'll kill me.
I love that. So, okay, so everybody get your reservations to El Che and go check out that delicious ribeye cap that they got.
Party steak.
Limited.
The party steak. That's
You got to beat me there, though.
practically free.
You got to beat me there.
It's practically you can't afford not to have this.
We have a question from.
That was one question.
That was one. We have another question. This is from, some of you may know, Diana Davila of Mitokaya in Logan Square. Chef asked, why is your place so good? And what is your favorite Mexican antojeria?
Okay. The first one is the people. Like the people who work there, like that's the
Yes.
secret sauce. Like that's just it.
Agreed.
That's like the team that's built, that's there. That's the reason why it's great.
Yeah.
Period. The second one, I'd have to think about. Like nothing comes to mind. The first time I met Deanna, we did
yes.
some I like some foodie forum thing, and I didn't know her, and we were like on this panel, and we were shooting the shit afterwards, and she was like, "This is why I love her." She was like, "You're weird. I like you. Let's be friends."
I love that.
Yeah. No, Mitokai is special.
It is.
Mitokai is kind of like, it's the size of Serena. You know what I mean? Like, and it's such a personal. It's like nothing else.
Yeah,
it's
it's
her.
a
her,
door
yeah.
into her life. It's literally walking into, her family. Her, and I'm sure like there's just so much of her, and I'm sure her her parents and the upbringing and her culture. It's a really special place in Chicago.
It's one of those little
We're really
gems
lucky
that,
to have her.
I was gonna say we're very lucky to have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're better off for it.
The next one comes from Chio Takemoto.
What up?
Do you know Chio?
Yeah, I know Chio.
Good friends. Will there ever be a La Sirena Clandestina throwback menu / pop-up?
Well, I think I answered this to Chio. Yeah, I mean, Brasero, there will be no more kale salad. Okay. Julia, Chio, we got to move on. We have to move on.
Let it go.
We have to move on. We'll find something better.
Yeah.
I feel like
How do you know?
maybe somebody will do that someday, but it won't be me. We got to let it go. There will never be a Serena because that was kind of like Mitokaya. That was the space and the time, that corner before all this happened.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just a different thing. I don't know where I am in my life. I can't work there every day. And that's what La Serena was that.
Yeah.
It was just one of those little special places. That said, I'd like to think that Brasero is a spiritual heir to what we were doing there, because that was definitely focused on Brazilian food. I'd like to think this will be a progression of that.
I love that.
And I feel like you'll be able to see, unlike La Serena, where place was just dark. It was like a dark little corner, sexy bar. But I think that if you liked or loved La Serena, Brasero is going to be in that same wheelhouse.
I love that. Something to look forward to. This one comes from a listener, Nathan San Augustine. The question is, I love this question, by the way. What stories will you tell through food that you want to be passed down from generation to generation?
Oh, wow. Okay, I love this question. I think that the most important thing for me is this.
Water.
Travel. Go see the world. For me, that's the whole thing. And if you were a young cook or interested in food, get the fuck out of here and go. It's a big world. There is amazing experiences to be had. Every culture tells their story through food. Go experience that. You can have your own thing, what you grow up with, and be infinitely influenced by masters of their craft. And I'm talking about just people cooking food every day. Because for them, it's just food. Yeah. For us, it's alchemy. It's magic.
Right.
And having your lid peeled back and your mind blown by an experience that you're not going to get by going to a Michelin-starred restaurant or even just going to New York. Get out there in the world, go see it, go eat it, go feel it, especially while you're young. Skip culinary school. You're fine. Yeah. Go, get inspired. Yeah. And that's, for me, I was very, very lucky that I got to do what I got to do at a young age and get inspired, because that still informs how I cook.
Yeah.
So that if there's a lesson or something that I'd like people to take from Che or Brasero, it's just be open.
I love that. I feel like there's a couple things I want to touch on what you said. One, I absolutely thought that was beautiful. And I feel like more often than not, even sometimes I'm guilty of this too. When I go out and eat at restaurants, it's maybe sometimes I get lost in it, but there's moments where I feel like I'm traveling. I walk in the doors of, El Che, and I'm transported, right? Mitokaya does that for me, right? I'm completely transported, and you have this incredible presence of great chefs in the city of Chicago here that are bringing incredible concepts where you get to do that. You don't have to leave your city, but you can go down the street or go to another neighborhood and really get transported to another culture and see food through a different lens. And sometimes I get lost in it myself, and I'm just kind of to me, it doesn't get that. I don't get that feeling sometimes. And I think, a lot of what we all do in this business is try to give people that experience, right? It's not just food, it's the entirety of the experience. And, I just went on a long trip back home to Korea, and I felt like back home to the motherland. And like my whole life, I thought I knew Korean food, and at the age of 38, I was like, went there and was looking at food and tasting things, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, there's just so much I didn't know. There's so much that's happening too, that's evolving as well. But really the special moments that I had over there was not like the molecular stuff. It wasn't like the progressive, it was like this is what like they've been eating for years and generations before that. And I love that advice to anyone that's either cooking or even just in the front of house or just passionate about food in general, to go out and explore the mom and pop shops, right? Like not necessarily like these fancy, like, high end restaurants, but really to go to like the meat and bones of like a city and its culture, the country, and really explore what they're cooking over there, because that's what the people that are living there are eating. And I feel like there was so much I learned from just that experience myself.
Yeah, and I said get out in the world, but like you can do the same thing here.
Yeah.
Like if you've never been up to Argyle Street, go.
Yeah.
Devon Avenue, go. Just like it doesn't matter whether you like these things or not or are exposed to them. Like just learn something.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I think just to touch on that a little bit, like it's such a privilege that somehow through my poor decision making skills, I've ended up in a career where I get to eat, explore, and travel, and that is directly related to how inspired I get, or my inspirations, and being able to like bring new ideas, And I think it's so beautiful that you touched on that. It's such I don't know, it's a dream, and I talk about that a lot. And it's, the fact that you've been doing this a few years more than we have, and
Couple.
Just a few,
and just the fact that that's it's still like at the forefront, of your.
Oh, without a
intentions.
doubt. I mean, I'm always learning, and even now that I've been doing it this long, if I'm not listening to, and I was saying about Brasero, like having young, talented cooks, like I don't know everything, and also if I'm not like listening to what they're into, then what am I even doing?
Right.
Like there's a ton that I can learn from people who've had different experiences as well.
Always.
Yeah. I did want to just touch on this because, just Thanksgiving passed, and, I shot you a little note about this because I've, just like, I feel like every year around this time of the year, it's a reminder for me of, just gratitude is at the forefront of my mind. And I just feel like this is the time that, maybe it's coming back from this incredible trip that I feel like it's a privilege to be able to go and do, and it's part of what we do for a living. But I've just been really overwhelmed with a lot of gratitude these days, not just for, the trip, but being able to do this because I've got an amazing team here, and because of the time of the year. Is there anything that I know you just went to Argentina, Mendoza as well. So is there a moment of gratitude that you wanted to kind of share with our listeners, or is anything that on the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, I have this feeling, and this goes back to the pandemic, which seems like in the rearview mirror, but it's always in the front of my mind. Like I'm always waiting for the other foot to drop. When that went down, it was like, where I am in my career, what's the next act, right? If my job goes away, if I can no longer do this, what do I do? How to explain to my in-laws that I have to move into their basement? And it's funny, but it's not. But like these are thoughts that we all had.
Right.
So every day I'm insanely grateful that I get to do this. Like I consider myself unbelievably lucky that not only did I get to do this in this great community, but I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
Like it's unbelievable.
Right.
If I pause, which I do, and think about like the longevity of my career and how much has changed, that I can put a roof over my head and provide for my kids and hopefully make an impact on our community. And the best thing that we do is like we get to work with young, talented people and hopefully get them to the next level as well.
Right.
So yeah, it's not lost on me.
Yeah.
And, definitely Thanksgiving. But for the most part, I'm just a pretty lucky son of a bitch.
Yeah. I love that. We want to just touch on some of your. I know you've been living out of the city for some time, but
I don't live that far outside of the city. It's not like
anything outside of this downtown proper,
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, you're removed. Some of your favorite restaurants and bars that you want to
I
highlight.
get where you're coming from because before I moved to Berwyn,
Yeah.
which is probably like closer than most people live in the city,
Right.
I was like, okay, I know where Evanston is. I could get there.
Yeah.
I know that there's 9094 that runs through the city, and there's 2 highways to the south.
Right.
One goes to Midway. I have no fucking idea where the other one goes or why anybody would ever be on that. So I was like, when I lived in Wicker Park in Ukraine Village, I tried never to go north of Fullerton
Right.
or like south of, 4A's into Chinatown, but like Randolph is about as far south as I ever needed to
Right.
go. So like, I get it.
Yeah. I
get
just living here, I just like even Logan Square seems far sometimes for me, like coming from here, but that's just me. I'm walking 2 blocks to work and,
I feel the same way. The other thing about Logan Square is like, I'm too old. I'm too old for Logan Square.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like, Daisy's, Lula, I could definitely see that. It's a little, it's got a young crowd in there, but like, I feel like Daisy's is like,
I just feel like in general, I had this
see
experience
you
a couple
there.
years ago where I went to, this is probably like 7 or 8 years ago, where I went to Fernet Branca pop-up at Emporium.
okay.
There was like a DJ.
That sounds like,
Okay, so this is a while back. And I walked in there because I do this for a living. Like I kind of knew everybody, and somebody handed me a drink that I didn't really want. And I was like, man, I'm too old for this shit.
yeah.
So I got there was a taxi. There were still taxis back then. But I got in a taxi and I went down Milwaukee to the Matchbox, and I had a proper like grown-up drink like a grown-up.
yeah.
By yourself?
Yeah, by myself.
You left the party.
Let the
You're
man,
just like-
let the man drink. He just
And I thought-
Finally,
dealt with
some
a bunch
peace.
of,
I love that.
and I thought my thoughts.
I do the same, but with different substances.
Like substances. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
Just say it.
It's not even legal anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
Smoked a joint.
Yeah,
There you go.
Thought my thoughts.
My thoughts.
Yes, I did.
Any favorite restaurants or bars you want to kind of shout out here in for listeners?
Oh man.
Where can they find John Manion eating? And also, I would love to know if you found anything out there that you really like for maybe people in the west suburbs like you.
Yeah, Ultramond, like they've been doing it for a while, and I think that it's Ultramond.
Ultramont. Okay.
So it's a group of people all from like Spiaggia alums.
Oh.
On Roosevelt in Berwyn. And I remember having like
cool.
leeks vinaigrette there last summer.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And that's a dish that in the wrong hands, I feel like that's one of those French dishes that people don't actually know how to do anymore.
Well, I thought you just said a sauce, to be honest. It sounded
It's
like
leeks.
leeks vinaigrette.
In vinaigrette.
Oh.
That's it.
Okay.
And I don't know, it's like this is a dish being done by great fucking cooks. So shout out there for sure.
And it's called Outramond?
Another world. Yeah, Ultramont.
Outramond. Oh, cool. I love that. Anything in the city proper that you recently been to that you like?
Where have I been recently? I'm always going to go like, this is a broken record, but I'm always going to like give a shout out to my old stomping grounds at Le Bouchon, where I used to eat like once a week.
Oh, yeah.
And I could not be more like, I don't know, thrilled for those guys.
Yeah.
That and Obelix are like just crushing it.
Aren't you on the menu?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
you
Okay,
are on the
hold
menu.
on. Okay, can you tell us about, so it's there's a version called the John, like it's like the John Manion.
It's the steak
Steak
frites
up-
Manion style.
Okay.
And this is how much like I used to eat there. So I used to eat at the bar, and I would have kind of the same thing, creature of habit. And I would get steak frites au poivre, extra au poivre sauce.
Okay.
And I would like take it and put it on top of my fries and pour the sauce all over it.
That's right.
So that way the sauce soaks into the fries, and these crispy, beautiful, like the best fries I think in the city. In the first bite, they're that. but then they become something different as the meat juice and the poivre sauce kind of like
Right.
soaks into them. So like that was just a thing that I did. Probably last year, I was eating there, and I ordered steak frites, au poivre, and the server was like, "Do you want that Manion style?"
What? Get the fuck out! So good.
Like, sure.
Did you know that they did this?
Oh, I had no idea. No idea.
Oh man, that's so good.
So I got it, and then a couple of weeks ago, Oliver shot me a text, and he was like, "Is it cool if we go live with this?" And it was a screenshot of like the menu that's like steak au poivre,
Yeah.
and then Manion style. It's like $1 more, and I was like, "Is this okay, man? I feel like I'm done. This is like one of the greatest moments of my
love
life,
that.
and I'm not even like." My wedding, birth of my children, like there's some other things sprinkled in there, but like, holy shit, man, my name is on like Le Bouchon's menu.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's for me, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so just so when we go there, remind me what a poivre is, and then remind me the build.
Okay, so like you get a steak, and they coat it in peppercorns, and cook it that way. So it's like, it's basically beef that tastes like black pepper. I don't put any black pepper on our meat there. But steak au poivre might be my desert island, like my death row, like that could be it. And then there's a sauce that's made with brandy, veal stock, and cream and mustard. Some garlic, some aromatics. Flame it at the end, goes right on top. Like that's it. For me, that's a little slice. I'm going there on Wednesday.
Oh.
Can't wait.
Well, it's going on my list.
I know, I'm like,
Right after that spinalis, that 2-pound spinalis at Che. I love that. That's amazing. Closing question for you.
I think you're going to say closing arguments, counselor.
If you could share any advice with your younger self, what would that be?
Get some sleep. Like I definitely, this is something I'm grateful for as well, is like I kind of lived that life, that we not so let people wistfully look back on that whole culture. I wish I hadn't as much as I did. I spent a lot of time sitting in bars, having the same conversation over and over again. And I think that in some ways I don't know. It's not who I wanted to. It's not who, looking back, I wish I was at that point. I wish I had applied myself more to my career.
Yeah.
And that's getting some sleep and taking care of yourself. And it's like, it's important. I'm glad that those pirate ship days are for the most part over.
Yeah.
I think that whatever
For now,
vestiges,
for the most part.
well, I don't know, like whatever vestiges were left over, a lot of the shitheads got flushed out during COVID.
Yeah.
People who are really just in it to smoke American spirits by the dumpster and stay out till 4. And, I was one of those people, The cooks now that I work with are way more serious. They tend to smoke more weed than drink, which I think is great.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a vice, like smoking a joint and going to bed, that's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
People take care of themselves more. And I wish that was around. I wish that was more the culture back in the day.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had been a leader there. Other than that, like, just stay curious, man.
I love that. Yeah. Stay curious.
I think there are plenty of vices these days that, weren't around back then, but that you might regret doing.
For sure. But the culture was so like, just stay up all night and chase the party. And like,
Yeah.
it was heroic to
Get
like,
an hour of sleep and then get back on the line and set up for brunch.
It's no good. Like that's a zero-sum game. There's nothing to win there.
That's why it was so fucking toxic, or kind of still is at times. But that's a lot of why, because people were really in shitty moods and
absolutely. But also like as owners of restaurants, like don't be those guys.
Yeah.
Don't let people do that.
Yeah.
But like don't encourage it. Don't let somebody close and open.
Yeah.
If it can, this whole like movement towards work-life balance pays dividends.
Right.
Like keeping people around
Yeah.
is super important. Turnover is expensive.
Yeah.
And it's hard to maintain the levels that you want to maintain when you always have new cooks.
Right.
You got to keep your people happy.
I love that. We have a little parting gift, and I'm going to read this because this comes from our sponsor, Chio Takamoto,
Oh, nice.
and it's so beautifully
Cocktail
written.
Collective.
From Cocktail Collective.
Chio.
I want to read this because it's so beautiful. In anticipation of your new concept, Brasero, I'm reading from Chio here. I made a margarita variation using both Asian and Mexican ingredients, highlighting the influence of the Asian. I'm going to ruin this word. Diaspora, found in Mexico and South America. In this cocktail, I'm featuring Reinhall's mango brandy split based with Madre Mezcal Espadín, fresh muddled lime, Pierre Ferrand's yuzu curacao, and a lychee syrup. I also included a chamoy made from umeboshi and apricot as the pickled fruits from China, the Philippines, and Japan, which inspired the Mexican chamoy we know today. Cool. So if you want to enjoy this at home and drink this with John, it would be 1 ounce of Madre Mezcal, 1 ounce of Reinhall's mango brandy, 3/4 ounce lime juice, 1/4 ounce of Pierre Ferrand yuzu curacao, which sounds delicious, and a 1/2 ounce of lychee syrup. You're going to garnish it with a beautiful little lime twist and umeboshi chamoy rimmed glass, which you can do right there. So,
Thanks, Chio.
Issei
That's amazing.
Margarita.
oh, it is called, Issei Margarita with umeboshi chamoy. So,
Amazing. Thank you.
I want to leave our listeners with some information. First, let's cover like the grounds here. So your Instagram is
One Man One.
and
At One Man One.
at El Che Chicago.
That's it.
And for El Che, it'll be elchechicago.com, and you can find them on Resi for
Yes.
now.
For now.
Brasero. Brasero is going to be opening hopefully in January.
At Brasero Chicago. BraseroChicago.com.
Awesome. And where can they book tables for that? We'll find out.
We'll find out soon. Stay tuned.
We'll see what happens.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, John Manion.
Thanks, guys. This is amazing.
Awesome. Thank you.